I'm back! How do I do this again? I feel like I haven't done this from forever. Hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I've decided to get rid of the rest of my intro because let's be honest, I don't really paint my face in the same way that I used to when I first started this channel. But anyway, I am back. It has been a while. I think I took a sort of 2-month-long hiatus from doing anything. I went hell for leather on TikTok and everything like that because it felt easier and it felt simpler and it felt less intensive than these YouTube videos. I'm not going to go into a big rigmarole whatever about why I was away and what I was doing or anything like that. We can get into that later in the vlog, but what I will say is that I'm very, very excited to be back with my first video in about 2 months' time. I'm excited to be back talking to you guys about books. I'm excited to be reading again after going through a really big slump. And yeah, let's get straight into the concept for this vlog, which is to kick things off with a bit of a challenge vlog because I never like to start anything easily, and that is the 24-hour readathon challenge thing. So which particular method of the 24-hour readathon am I going to be trying out, you may ask? Well, it's going to be the timer method. Essentially that means I'm going to start a timer at the beginning of when I pick up a book, and every time I stop to take a break or anything like that I have to stop the timer, and the whole readathon ends when I have been reading for 24 hours total. I know for a lot of people this takes like about a week to put together, and I'm not really expecting anything different for myself, but I do want the majority of this to be done this weekend so that I can get this video out soon and fully, properly get back into the swing of things with these videos. Let's see what happens. But anyway, enough of that rambling. Let's find out what books I'm going to be reading over this weekend and throughout this vlog. I've only picked 2 books so far, and that is because one, I have my 26 before 26 TBR and my sort of 23 must-reads for 2023 TBR nearly done. I have literally 1 book left that is on both of those TBRs that I have to read before both of those are completely finished. That book is These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. I have had this book for the longest time and I heard lots about it. I heard it was a fantasy romance and it was like enemies to lovers or something like that. Sounds like that's gonna be right up my alley. Here's me really, really hoping that I like this book. As for what it's about, I got no idea. So I'm gonna read you the blurb like a proper booktuber who clearly has not done any research yet so far about the book that she's gonna be reading first. Go to the Seelie Court, find the Queen's secret portal to enter the most dangerous place in Fairy, find my sister and rescue her from a power-hungry king. Child's play. Bree would do anything before making a deal with the Fae. Death is preferable to their vicious schemes. But when her sister is taken by the sadistic king of the Unseelie Court, there is nothing Bree wouldn't do to get her back, including making a deal with the king himself to steal 3 magical relics from the rival Seelie Court. Gaining unfettered access to the Seelie Court is easier said than done. Bree's only choice is to pose as a potential bride for Prince Ronan. Ooh, I'm guessing that's the enemies to lovers. The Seelie prince who's not quite as wicked as she once thought. Unwilling to let her heart distract her, she accepts help from a band of Unseelie misfits with their own secret agenda. But as Bree spends time with their mysterious leader, Finn, okay, so love triangle maybe? She finds herself struggling to resist his seductive charm. Caught between 2 dangerous courts, Bree must decide who to trust with her loyalty and with her heart. That kind of sounds right up my alley. There's a little thing on the back as well that says, the king was right about one thing. I am a great thief. I can steal just about anything. But a fairy prince's heart? I wouldn't know where to start. Love the rhyming there. But yeah, this is book number 1, super, super shiny, that I'm going to be reading for this vlog. And book number 2 is a book that a friend from work recommended to me, and I said, of course, sounds right up my alley. I went to try and get it from the library, and then the library was like, lol, it's gonna be like 3 months before we can get that to you. So my friend was like, well, why don't you just borrow my copy? And I was like, oh my god, you are amazing, thank you very much. And that book is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I will look up how to pronounce his name by the time I get around to reading this book. As for what it's about, it says Alicia Berenson lived a seemingly perfect life until one day 6 years ago, when she shot her husband in the head 5 times. Since then, she hasn't spoken a single word. It's time to find out why. That sounds fascinating. I'm super intrigued by this. I'm assuming there's someone who's going to be in her life, like a psychologist or something, trying to figure out what happened and trying to get her to talk. So yeah, that's book number 2, a bit more of a thriller, definitely different vibe to the first book. These are the 2 sort of priority books that we are starting with. Which one am I going to be reading first? Of course, a fantasy romance. I am a predictable human being and I'm just all about that fantasy romance life. I'm gonna crack straight into this book, I'm gonna set the timer, and we will crack straight into my first reading vlog back in what feels like a really, really long time.
What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.
Hey, apologies if I'm a little bit shiny. It's nearly the end of the day. It is 4 p.m. and I will admit that I didn't really officially start this readathon until like midday, despite the fact that my first update to you guys, I filmed that at like 10 a.m. I then got absolutely hooked into all the TikToks that I wanted to film today, and I made a ton of them. I made like 18 of them, very, very proud of them. I might include a few of them in the B-roll for this video just because I think that's kind of fun. I started this readathon really, really late, so I'm only like actually 3 hours in. This book, I am 200 pages into it and I am really, really enjoying it. I'm hooked. I'm so intrigued. It's got all the lovely tropes and everything that I love in fantasy romance. It is a good time. I'm loving, first of all, the massive fairy tale vibes that I'm getting from this. At the very beginning, there's this sort of Sealy Court ball, I guess, that the main character is trying to get into. It kind of starts off the whole plot. None of this is a spoiler, don't worry. And there are certain things that she has to do that can only be done at midnight, which are very like Cinderella vibes for me. And the fact that she has this sort of fairy godmother person who makes her all beautiful. And then the fact that she's got like an evil aunt that she lives with and like these two evil cousins that she and her sister have to look after. It's very Cinderella vibes. Later in the book, when she has to find the magical relics, the first magical relic that she has to find, and don't worry, none of this is a spoiler, is a mirror that can show you whatever you want to see, as long as you sort of tell the mirror what you want to see. And that reminds me very, very much of Beauty and the Beast, because I know that Belle in Beauty and the Beast has that mirror where she wants to see her father, and so she says his name and she can see her father in the mirror. And I'm hoping all the other magical relics that she has to find are also very sort of fairy tale vibes. The other thing that I want to say I'm really loving about this book is that what's the word I'm looking for when it's two men that she could be in? Love triangle. The love triangle. Why was that so hard for me to get? The love triangle in this book actually feels like a love triangle. Like I could see her ending up with either of these men based on who they are individually. It's more like the circumstances around them that is giving me hints as to which one she's actually going to end up with. But I still love that the time spent with the other one is beautiful, is, you know, it creates that complication. It kind of makes you second guess and go, oh, but this is really cute. Like they're really sweet together. But yeah, I am really, really enjoying this so far. Like I said, I'm absolutely hooked in it. 3 hours in, I'm 200 pages in, which is, I think, faster than I'd usually read. That is how I'm going in this readathon so far. I will hope to update you guys one more time before I go to bed tonight. But yeah, something tells me my plan to get most of this readathon done in this weekend is just not gonna go well because of how late my start was today. I'm gonna get back to reading. I'll include a couple of my TikToks so that you can see them because I think it might be fun. And yeah, let's continue with this readathon and I will share my thoughts on the rest of this book in a bit.
My dear, sweet child, that's what I do. It's what I live for.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
I'm frightened and I don't know what to do. I'm confused and I want to go home.
Never really know what's going on. Look at me sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. It's all the things you never.
Okay, excuse the very horrific lighting situation. I just wanted to come in here very, very quickly to say I finished these Hollow Vows. I give it 4 stars. Absolutely love this book, and it has officially derailed my reading plans for this vlog because I need to know what happens next, and it's only a duology, so I'm picking up these Twisted Bonds. I have about 17.5 hours left on my timer, so I should be able to finish this. Well, no, I'd definitely be able to finish this and still read The Silent Patient by the end of this reading vlog. I'll tell you about this in a full review tomorrow morning, but the way this ended, I need to know what happens next. Cliffhanger, drama, whole situation, love triangle that kind of didn't go how I expected to, but loved it. I need to know what happens next. So yeah, I'm gonna pick up this basically immediately. Ben and I are gonna have some dinner and then I'm gonna read this, and yeah, I'll let you know my thoughts tomorrow when I have some coherent things to say and I've officially thought about what my review actually is, rather than just a whole heap of bumble and jumble and me just being like, I knew it, but also, oh my god. Anyway, I'm gonna go read. I'll see you in a bit. Hello, it is the next morning. My thoughts are a little bit more coherent. I'm officially awake. I'm a little bit hungover because Ben and I did have quite a few sort of gin and ginger beer, new favorite drink, FYI, while we were playing Mario Kart last night, which has become the new obsession in this household. I'm here to tell you about my thoughts on these Hollow Vows, which I gave 4.5 stars overall. I think I mentioned that last night in the middle of my bumbly jumbly rant about why I immediately needed to pick up these Twisted Bonds, which I'm holding upside down, these Twisted Bonds, and I have done so. I'm like 200 or so, 211 pages into this one. That's beside the point. This book, at the end, I mean, I knew it. Like, I knew that the relationship that she was in at that point in time wasn't gonna last, that wasn't gonna be the end game, that wasn't gonna be what's happening, and I'm so glad with the way that this book ended, because it was a cliffhanger in the way that the relationship was once again, kind of as it had been throughout the entirety of the book, completely up for grabs. I am very much swaying a certain way, but the book definitely made you think that it could literally go either way with this sort of betrayal that happened right at the end of the novel. I got super invested in this book. I really loved it. I thought the characters were amazing. I love the main character and the conflict that she goes through, because she's loving all the pampering and everything that she's experiencing in the Fae world, but she's also dealing with all the danger and everything of the tasks that she's been sort of forced to pursue by this like evil king. And then she's also dealing with the guilt because of her sister, and she knows her sister is in prison, but she thinks her sister's safe. Like, it's a whole complex, it's a whole complicated situation, and I think the way the main character Bree handled all of that was really well done. Of course, I loved the two main male characters, loved the heroes. I can't really tell you much about them because it gives away sort of aspects of the love triangle, I think, but I will say that throughout the book you kind of didn't really know which one she was leaning towards one way or the other, but their actions and the circumstances surrounding them, I think, was sort of subliminal messaging that the author was trying to tell you who you should kind of be rooting for. As for the plot, I will admit that there were elements of it that I found really confusing, and part of that is because a big element of the plot is that there are a certain group of people that just can't talk about the history. They're unable to talk about the history, which means that Bree is just very often guessing and trying to figure things out. No one's telling her anything. And so it did make it kind of frustrating, kind of confusing, because as a reader, you're not learning anything. You're not being given any hints. You're not being given any ideas right until the end when everything's kind of revealed. I will admit that at moments I did find that a little bit annoying, but when it gets to the end, obviously, and everything's revealed, there were elements of it which I think were quite predictable, in the sense that it's a fantasy plot. There are elements of it that are going to be predictable because they tend to follow a certain formula. But don't get me wrong, there are elements of it that were super surprising. There was a sort of plot twist. There was a massive sort of cliffhanger, I guess, at the end, especially in the relationship, as I said before. A couple of things that I would have liked to see a bit more of is the sort of other women in the court, in the Seelie court, because the whole premise of this plot is that she has to pretend to fall in love with Prince Ronan, and she has to compete with a bunch of other women in order to try and be his bride and, you know, build his trust and everything that way. But you never actually get to see any of the other women. You never actually get to see any of this sort of competing between any of them, all of them trying to fight for his affections or anything like that. And I think that would have been a really interesting element to add in, and I think it would have been fun, kind of like the Selection by Kira Cass style. And then the other thing that I really would have liked to see more of is the sort of fairy tale-esque side of things. So at the beginning I said that, you know, the fairy tale-esque style was very much present. There was Cinderella vibes, there was Beauty and the Beast vibes, all that sort of stuff. And I think that kind of tailed off towards the end of the story, whereas I really would have liked to see the other relics definitely still give me fairy tale vibes. But I mean, all in all, I really enjoyed reading this book. I had an amazing time with it. I gave it 4.5 stars. There were just a couple of those little niggly bits, I think, that stopped it from getting that 5-star god tier rating. And as you know, I immediately had to pick up these Twisted Bonds, which I am now 200 pages into and definitely still enjoying. I will admit though, the whole love triangle thing is getting a little bit frustrating now, because I'm just like, just pick one. And she's still going back and forth, like 200 pages in to the second book in a duology, halfway through basically. and we're still not clear on which guy she's kind of going to end up with, which guy she's kind of going to pick. And I find that kind of frustrating because I want to see them have some happy times, see them have some romantic moments, and she's still like kissing both guys. She's still going for it. So I will admit that the love triangle bit is getting a little bit old, but the plot is really expanding. It's really, really interesting. The magic is getting so much more complicated. All the political ties are something that I'm finding really, really interesting, which is surprising to me because I do not like political machinations usually. I find them so boring. It's really interesting, but that is kind of the update on the reading at the moment. How long do I have left in this readathon? Okay, so I have 14 hours and 28 minutes left. So I'm about 9.5 hours in, and let's be honest, I'm not gonna get a ton of reading done today because Ben came out while I was doing my reading and he was like, hey, why don't we go and do something fun today? And I'm kind of like, you know what, screw it, let's do it. I think we're gonna go play putt-putt at some point, but I don't really know. We haven't kind of set a solid plan in other than we're gonna go and have a cider at some point in the afternoon because it's a nice day and we both kind of feel like having a cider in the sunshine. But other than that, I've got no clue. So I will bring you along with me as we figure out together what I'm actually gonna be doing today. And yeah, we'll go from there, have a lovely day, and then I will read some more tonight and update you later on with my thoughts once I finish These Twisted Bonds and finally get back on track with my reading plans for this whole readathon, which was to read The Silent Patient next by Alex Michaelides, I think is how you say his name. Anyway, I'm gonna go do that. I'll talk to you guys in a bit. Yeah, go have a fun day.
And I find myself wondering what did happen to the last 10.
I'm not gonna lie to you, this is probably the worst angle I've ever shot at. I am on my lunch break and I do have my ring light just aimed at my face right now so that at least I have decent lighting while I update you. But I cannot be stuffed to move from this desk, so I've set my camera up clearly looking at me from above like borderline bird's eye view to tell you that I have finished, let me get the book, These Twisted Bonds by Lexi Ryan. I gave this book 4.5 stars, just like I gave this first book. I absolutely loved this story. I loved the way it grew and developed. I loved all the extra little things that got added into the plot, but none of it was completely brand new, so it didn't feel like anything was completely out of the blue. I loved the way the relationships developed and changed. I loved that the romance really kind of came to the forefront in a different way than I expected. So the love triangle definitely did continue throughout the story, but once you got to about halfway through, it was kind of gone, and the author kind of acknowledged, okay, now it's time to pick a dude, and she picked the dude that I wanted her to pick in a way that I didn't expect, but it's also my favorite way ever, which was just, it was magical for me. It was an entire experience to read that element being brought into this story and me being like fangirling because I'm like, I love that element. I'm not going to tell you what it is though because it's like major spoilers. There were a lot of very unexpected twists and turns throughout this read. It really was all gas, no break, right up until the very end. There was shit happening right up until the very end. And yeah, it was an incredible read. I think the writing was so amazing. It was such an atmospheric world. The tension was so high. It was just, how many times am I gonna say I loved it? Probably like 6 more, but I loved it, there you go, and I would recommend this duology to everyone out there because honestly it was so much fun. But before I just keep ranting and raving about how much I love this book, I want to tell you what I'm going to be reading next, and that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I am 32 pages into it, so I did start it last night, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's definitely starting quite slow. It's definitely still in those formative stages of just introducing you to all the characters and all their various intricacies and the sort of story centering around it, which is that there's a woman named Alicia Berenson who seemed to be very happy with her husband until one day she shot him. 6 years ago, I think she shot him, and she shot him in the head 5 times. So after she's convicted of the murder of her husband, because obviously she's put into a psychiatric hospital because essentially she spent the entire trial as completely mute. So the court was able to kind of prove that this is completely out of character for her, that she's clearly under strenuous circumstances, something's happening in her mind that means that she needs to be in a psychiatric hospital rather than in prison. And this one sort of psychiatrist, I think his name, or psychotherapist, I think he is, finds out what sort of hospital that she's in and determines that he's going to get to know her and he's going to uncover what actually happened. Sorry, my camera was running out of battery, so I was kind of speed talking by the end there, but yeah. Anyway, I'm 30 pages into this book. It's definitely still up in the setup pages, and once I have finished this update, I'm going to keep reading for the rest of my lunch break, and then I'll come back to you later tonight with my thoughts. How far into this readathon am I? I keep forgetting to check. 11 hours, 13 minutes left, so 12 hours, 45 minutes roughly into the readathon. So we're on the second half, we're on the home stretch. I'm gonna get into the rest of this book, and yeah, talk to you later with my full thoughts.
At 29 and I find myself wondering what did happen to the last 10. I ran away with my life, fast forward, never turn back again. It's kind of funny that the more we pass time, the more we need to set the rewind. And 19 was the year I had to leave you, but now I'm seeing all the signs.
Man, do I have some updates for you. It is now Saturday. It's been, I think, a couple of days since I last updated you guys. So I think Wednesday maybe was the last time I updated you. I now have, how long left in this readathon? Oh, I don't have my timer up. I've got 46 minutes left in my readathon, and some reading has been done. Some reading has been done. 2 books have been finished. Firstly, The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Forgot his name for a second there. That was 2 stars. I didn't like that book. I felt like that entire book was a setup for something that, like, right in the last 50 pages or so, he was like, lol, no jokes, it's gonna go this way. It was really irritating because you spend the whole book thinking it's this therapist interviewing this woman to try and find out what happened that made her go silent and that made her kill her husband, and then at the end of the book he's like, haha, lol, no jokes. That's not what this book was actually about. I think maybe my mind would change about how out of the blue this whole sort of U-turn felt if maybe I went back and read the book again and really looked for all the little Easter eggs, but I really have no inclination to do that. Didn't find the book all that intriguing. I found it quite slow. I found it just like being in this really kind of narcissistic man's head 99% of the time as he's complaining about his life. And don't get me wrong, there were a lot of things going on in his life that were horrible that I'm not going to go into because they're spoilers, and there were a lot of things going on that, you know, he had every right to complain about, but still, being in his head was just really droning, really dreary. I think the only thing that I really loved about this book were the Alicia Berenson diary bits of it, and how you got to see this weird juxtaposition between her talking about how much she loves her husband and how amazing she is, and then all of a sudden she snaps and something turns into some horrific story from her childhood, and they're just like one sentence right up against the other, which are so different in terms of the content and what they're dealing with and the way she's talking about it. So I will say that the Alicia Berenson side of this story was incredibly fascinating, but the Theo Faber side of this story was really boring, and the plot was just, it did a U-turn that I did not care for. So that is my thoughts on The Silent Patient. We're not going to talk about that one anymore because I then picked up Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mehra. I don't know how to say her last name, apologies. And that was 5 stars. That book was so good. If you don't know what that book is about, basically the author Hannah Nicole Mehra started this TikTok series of what she thinks it would be like to be the personal assistant to a morally grey villain. And that series of TikTok shorts basically created this book. This book is inspired by that, and it follows Evie, who becomes the personal assistant to the villain. Literally, his moniker in this world is the villain, because she's just trying to make ends meet with her very, very ailing father and her sister, who now rely on her after some traumatic situations happened in her past relating to her mother and her brother. It's kind of a The Office style situation, very, very found family, very, very humorous, very like, you could just feel yourself becoming best friends with these characters. There is a slow burn romance, of course, as well between the villain and Evie, and you get POVs from both of them as well. So you just have these sweetie moments as like the villain's doing everything he can to deny his feelings, and then he has this moment where he's like, shit, this woman is amazing. And Evie is just like this nervous bundle of energy. Like, he calls her his little tornado, I think is what, yeah, little tornado is what he calls her, which is just adorable. I love this book because Evie is a nervous tornado, and she has so much nervous energy, and she's so positive and upbeat and sunshiny and amazing and just so naive, but also so incredibly loyal to the people that matter to her. And then you've got the villain, who obviously is a villain, you know, he's torturing and killing and doing all sorts of crap, but then he's got this assistant that he has a sweet spot for, and he cannot understand for the life of him why he likes her so much and why she's able to get away with things and he'd never let any of his other staff get away with it, and why he's so protective of her. And he's kind of like battling that within himself while also like swooning every time Evie does something. It's like your big teddy bear man who will also like kill someone if you asked him to. It was incredible. And then you've just got this eclectic mix of like the Office style characters. So you've got Blade, the dragon trainer, who seems to have lied on his resume and knows nothing about training animals, but he just has this connection with them that's so different, and he's the biggest flirt. And then you have, I think, Becky, who's like from HR, and she's an absolute grump. She hates Evie, and the feeling is kind of mutual, but there is a lot of respect there and actually some unexpected common ground there as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing that little situation change as the two characters spend a bit more time together. And then who else? Oh, you have Tatiana, who's like the Office healer, and she deals in secrets, so she knows like everything about everyone, but she's also like Evie's best friend. She's amazing. And then you have one of my favorite characters, which is Kingsley, which is a frog, and I'm not going to tell you anything more than that. Kingsley is a frog and he's amazing. He's so sassy, he's so like, oh, I don't even know how to describe Kingsley, but yeah, so you've got these beautiful set of characters who you could just feel yourself become your best friends with, and then you've got this plot which is kind of simple in that Evie suspects that there is a rat within the villain's circle, and she's doing everything that she can to find them and make them pay for all the destruction and everything they're causing in the villain's like sort of manner. It's a simple plot, which is so good because it means so much of the story can be focused on really character building and world building and making you fall in love with the people before it does expand. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it expand in the next book, and I'm looking forward to seeing the relationships between the different characters expand. Hopefully a second romance comes in. If you've read this book, you know who I'm talking about. I don't know what else to say about this book because I could gush for about an hour about how amazing it is, and the only thing about it that makes me so mad is the fact that I apparently have to wait till September next year before I get the sequel. As I said before, I now have 46 minutes left in this readathon, and I'm not gonna get anything started and finished in that time. So I was having to think about what I could potentially be reading next. And I decided that, so basically I'm doing this Sarah J Maas reread project at the moment where I'm determined to vlog my experience rereading all of Sarah J Maas's books ahead of House of Flame and Shadow coming out, which to be honest, I'm probably not gonna end up making it to the end by the time that I need to because there's a lot to read and I'm reading them very slowly. I'm now on like the second book. That's the next book that I need to read and vlog and experience, and I'm determined to annotate them as well while I'm doing it, which naturally makes the whole reading experience take longer. I decided that I'd be doing the next vlog in this series, which is the Crown of Midnight vlog this weekend. So I think I'm just gonna get 46 minutes into Crown of Midnight, and then I will update you at the end of this vlog once I've finished the 46 minutes, but I don't really want to give any like review thoughts or feelings about the book because it's the subject of my next, you know, reread of the Sarah J Maas vlog video. So yeah, I'm gonna get started on Crown of Midnight. I'm gonna probably not take any B-roll. I'm gonna like snap my fingers and be back here and be like, hey, I finished. And then yeah, we're gonna crack straight into starting my next vlog because I've got the whole house to myself this weekend because Ben's off at a friend's wedding, a friend from work, so I don't get to go. Woo. So yeah, that is the plan. I'm gonna crack straight into that book and I will snap my fingers in a couple seconds and you will see me again having finished the 46 minutes of that book that I need to read. So here we go. And that is the end of the readathon. We are officially at 0 minutes, 0 seconds, 0 hours left of this readathon. I have started Crown of Midnight. I am 54 pages into this book. Greatly enjoying it so far, as always. I think it is the perfect setup to the rest of the series. Every chapter you go through adds another complication, another element that Selena Sardothien has to compete with in order to fulfill her destiny, I guess. All these new elements, all these new complications getting added into the plot are really making it a very tense and thrilling read so far, as well as the fact that obviously you get all these new characters added into the plot. And it's hard because every time a new character is added, me having read the series before knows how their stories end at the end of the series. And there are some moments definitely where it's a little bit bittersweet. You kind of know that their story isn't going to end well and they're going to be manipulated and they're going to be ruined throughout the series. And I mean, I'm tearing up just thinking about it because it's characters that, you know, when they're introduced, you're not even supposed to like them, but you do because you know their growth and you know what they get put through. It's intense, I won't lie. Reading this series again is intense because yeah, you just know how the story's gonna end. But anyway, on to lighter notes. We have officially done 24 hours of reading. It's taken me just about a week on the dot to actually be able to do this. I did, I think, start at about this time last Saturday. And we've done a lot, you know. We read These Hollow Vows, These Twisted Bonds, The Silent Patient, Assistant to the Villain, and 54 pages of Crown of Midnight, which is a lot of reading in total. Let me just calculate how many pages that is in total. That's 1,651 pages in total in a week and also in 24 hours. That's intense. And I have genuinely loved this experience. It did take a lot longer, I think, than I expected it to, but I got some amazing reads out of it. You know, I got 2 4.5 stars with the These Hollow Vows series. I, yes, of course, got the 2-star with The Silent Patient, but came right back in with a 5-star with Assistant to the Villain, and what is definitely so far turning out to be a 5-star read with the next book in the Throne of Glass series, Crown of Midnight. All in all, a really, really successful vlog, at least on my side. But on your side, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you have stuck around to the end. Do let me know if you did in the comments down below and what you thought of the books that I was reading, if you've read them, or just let me know what you're reading at the moment, loving it, hating it, all that kind of thing. Come and chat to me in the comments down below. I love talking to you guys and I do my best to reply to every single comment. As I said, I really, really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do let me know by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell all down below. It's a super, super easy way to help my channel grow, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. Bye!